Microsoft has been pulling back as of late on all the cool new technologies that they've been pioneering in Asp.Net MVC Core. Why don't you hang around and we'll tell you how much we hate it. Hi everybody and welcome to the Asp.Net Monsters. We are very lucky today. James is out in Las Vegas, but we are joined by fellow Canadian Asp.Net MVP Maxime Rouiller out of Montreal, or Montreal, as some might say.
Pretty good French.
Well, I took it in high school, so I'm probably the best French speaker in the world.
Oh, we're in bad either.
So, today we wanted to talk about this issue that has come up in the Asp.Net tooling GitHub. And I mean, everything is obviously available on GitHub, and Microsoft made the mistake of making everything public so they can hear us complain about it the second they make the mistake.
Well, in this case, it's within a week. I mean, the announcement has been done like 8 days ago, but only became public about 1 or 2 days ago, like at the most. And people have been wondering what the hell is going on because they literally pulled back on basically Gulp, and they pretty much edited out the templates in VS Code and removed everything in Yeoman, and they're pulling out the templates.
Right. So this is like an RC2 project that I've got here that I pulled up,
Yeah.
and included in it is a Gulp file, and we've got like npm and packages and all sorts of great stuff like that. And now this stuff is all gone. Are they pulling out like all of the npm stuff too? I guess so. Like if you don't have this, it's not much point.
From what I heard is that they're pulling it out of the templates. They're not pulling support out of it. So basically, you're going to be able to plug it back, but as you all know, once it's out of the templates, nobody's going to be using it.
Yeah,
or at
the
least
template is what sets the path forward for most of the projects, right? File new template is what people go with. So
yes. So basically, they can say, "Well, we're not pulling support. We're just removing it from the templates," but in effect, nobody's going to be using it.
yeah, and the bigger problem here isn't that just that that npm is being removed from the template, but that rather than use Gulp, which has all of this great tooling support in there for web developers and all these plugins for doing web developer tasks like bundling and minification, they've, I guess, changed their minds on that and are implementing their own. So
yeah, so that's this repo over here that Mads Christensen has written. So I mean, we all love Mads, but I feel like he's barking up the wrong tree here. Like re-implementing all of these tools. I don't understand what the point is. First off, you're gonna be behind the 8-ball always. People are gonna come up with new stuff. It's gonna go into Gulp first. It's gonna go into Grunt first. It's not going to show up in this bundle or minifier anything like as quickly, and it's going to be some like complete nonsense release cycle behind it. That it'll be like, oh well, we'll release another one of these, and then you've got to like do the pain in the butt update that is going into Visual Studio and finding the extensions and manually updating it, because for some reason Visual Studio doesn't update its extensions in a sensible way like Chrome would.
Well, it does now.
It does now? Oh, in 2015? Oh, thank goodness, it's about time.
So they do auto-update.
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of the default thing, is that they auto-update, but still.
Yeah, so this thing is like you just like add some files and you right-click bundle and minify, and I think it drives itself off of some like JSON file.
Yeah, there's a bundle config.json. Like, to be fair, there are some interesting things about this tool, and it is a good tool. It's just disappointing that the implementation of things that already exist, because I thought we were moving away from that idea with ASP.NET Core.
My thought was that we were trying to get a little bit more of those developers that do Java or Ruby or Node, and trying to get them on this new platform that is ASP.NET Core, that is from the latest benchmark 10 times faster than Node, and you're like, come on guys, we can do it. And I know that Node is not the fastest one. If you want something really fast, of course, .NET is going to do the work, or if you're really down to it, you can do it in C++, or just plain C if you're like mental.
I do all my web programming in assembly now.
WebAssembly, I guess. Yeah.
No, Action Assembly.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm right down there pushing ones and zeros around.
No, but joke aside, I mean, I know it's going to be slower, but the thing is that most of the tools that they have right now, there's about 2,500 plugins for Gulp that are currently live, and those are
Yep.
the tools that people are using right now to do web development, and not just people with Visual Studio or anyone else. I'm talking about developer, designer, uh, all those
Yeah,
people that
the
are
larger web development
yeah,
community,
Yeah,
right?
this is
Like it's
this is
so
what
much bigger
everybody's
than
doing.
ASP.NET.
yeah.
And I
And
mean, it does so much stuff here. Like, look at all these things here. Like, just off the top of my head, I can think of all sorts of cool things that I have seen in the
yeah,
Gulp ecosystem that aren't going to show up in this bundler.
I'm
and that
working with a client right
with
now,
Gulp,
and
it's even there's 2,500 plugins or whatever. But the thing is with Gulp, it's just JavaScript, so you don't need a plugin for everything. So you also have access to everything that's in npm. So anything that's in npm, a node module, could also be used in a Gulp file. So it's even bigger than just this 2,400 that it shows.
yeah.
But, for me, I think Gulp works good for me because I think of my asset, like dealing with my web assets as a pipeline, which is how Gulp thinks of it. So there's all these things I need to do to my files to get them from the state they are when I'm just writing it as a developer to the state it needs to be when it's something that ships and I'm actually including in my HTML pages. And Gulp really works really well for me for that. There's so much more to it than just bundling and minifying. And I think source maps, it also supports the bundle minifier, but
Yeah.
there's so much more to it than that. And if I'm using bundle minifier, and if that's what everybody in the community is using, because that's what's in the template, you're kind of stuck with that. There's probably going to be ways to extend it, but it's always, like you said, it's always going to be a bit behind. And now it's hard for me to kind of go from that to easily tying it into a pipeline that uses all these other Gulp pieces. That's
For the client I have right now, there's a few plugins we use for we concatenate files, we uglify them, we minify them, everything that the bundler does.
Yep.
But we also lint them.
Yep.
It's insane. But right now I have a Gulp Watch task, and I see everything. Every time I save the file, even I do a get latest since the files change. Well, guess what? Every time somebody check in some crap code, I have a nice warning on the side that says, well, somebody done goofed, so I have to get up and go make them fix their code and stuff like that. But I have this right away. So for me, pulling back on Gulp is removing functionalities for me, because I'm going to be like, they're going to be taking that away. And the team I'm talking about is it's not a team of MVPs that are always on the latest news, on the latest technologies, and wanted to use Gulp, or even like didn't want to use Gulp and wanted to use like npm script or whatever. They didn't even know Gulp before starting the project, and
But they learned it, right?
It didn't take a week.
It's not that complicated. I think we underestimate the .NET community and their ability to learn things.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up holding us back, is that we underestimate the community. They're not stupid people just because they're writing .NET code. I mean, they can learn new things, and it's not that complicated. It's a JavaScript file with a couple methods in it.
Yeah, and most people are afraid of Node itself, but the thing is that I see Node as two different beasts. Most people just see it like, oh, it's Node, like the web server and stuff like that. Well, for me, I didn't start liking Node for the web server. I didn't use Express. I didn't code to do web app with Node. The first thing I did was build a web development workflow with Node, with Gulp or Grunt
same.
or whatever it was. And from there, it's really easy. You don't really need JavaScript. You just need to copy paste tasks that people show on their website. If you want to debug them a little bit more, then yes, knowing JavaScript helps a bit. But otherwise, it's just works.
Yep. So let's think about a very simple example that I think will be pretty common for most projects, is that you're using TypeScript, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you look at TypeScript, which has been it's a Microsoft technology, but it's been adopted outside of the Microsoft developer world. People actually use it outside of it. Angular 2 is built in it, and a lot of other popular frameworks. So when you look at how those people are compiling their TypeScript files down to JavaScript, they're typically using something like a Gulp plugin or a Grunt plugin, which all goes back to a node module that that is TSC, right? The TypeScript compiler. So they're using those tools to do that. I guess now, as a Visual Studio developer on Windows, you would do file new project, and you would have this bundle minifier that would do your bundling and minifying. And I guess you would rely on the tooling that's built into Visual Studio to compile your TypeScript down to JavaScript. And then your bundle minifier you would configure to target the output of your TypeScript files. Like it's disconnected now, right? Whereas when you think about this from outside the Microsoft developer community,
I have so
the way
many
they're doing
problems
it
with it.
is right. It's just a gulp file probably, or a grunt file or whatever. Some kind of task runner where they have a pipeline set up where they start with their TypeScript files that gets compiled to JavaScript, then it gets concatenated, then it gets minified, and there's probably some source maps that get tied into that, but it's all defined in one place, and you can almost visualize the pipeline there, the workflow of what's happening to those assets. And it just feels really disconnected now in Visual Studio.
It's the pipeline. The pipeline actually makes it all work. I mean, if you're wanting to build your own pipeline for JavaScript, then you start out with the basic file that just like concatenate and uglify everything, and everything works. And at some point you say, hey, well, this TypeScript stuff looks very nice, or I want to try CoffeeScript. Well, the only thing you need to actually put into your script is just add the plugin and be in the beginning of the pipeline, and you keep all the rest, and everything works.
Yeah. Just add a step to the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. And not a bundler minifier. I don't know what's going on with that, because what if I want to compile CoffeeScript? I'm not the only one that's going to be using something like that. Well, most people are probably going to be using TypeScript, and I'm pretty sure the bundler minifier is going to support it. But what happens when the next version ships? What happens when...
it totally shouldn't support TypeScript.
What about system modules? I mean, in JavaScript, there's going to be ES6 and ES7. What about that? When there's new features coming in and that the bundler minifier doesn't support it, we're going to have to wait for a compiled version by Microsoft for Microsoft that's going to ship it. Otherwise, you can't do ES6. I mean, I don't know how they plan to address all that, but for me, it's just going back to Microsoft Ajax. It's just like, well, we don't want to use jQuery, so let's build our own, you know?
Yeah, I guess my point of view on this is that you could go and add this stuff back in, right? Like, it's not a big deal. And if you're going to be the sort of person who's going to be experimenting with ES7 features or something like that, you're probably going to be the sort of person that puts it back in. But it's not like there is a huge intellectual burden in having this, in having Gulp as the default or Grunt as the default. You're not learning all that much more. Like, I look at this bundle config here, and it doesn't feel like it's like substantially different from the Gulp file that we have over here, right? Like, we've got the same sorts of things where we're specifying the files that we're going to use, and if you have the choice between this and this, I mean, maybe the Gulp file is a little bit more complicated, but it's not.
Like, they could have improved this template too, right? Like,
well,
is kind of
we've talked about that before, that we're not keen on the template that they built here. There's lots of ways to clean it up and improve it, but it seems like if you've got the choice of like giving somebody the Ferrari or giving somebody the Ford Pinto, like, why wouldn't you just give them the Ferrari? It's not going to cost you anything more. They don't have to use it, right? Like, they can drive around in first gear all the time. They don't have to use the power of a Ferrari, but they could if they needed to.
The thing is that most people are not going to shift in second gear. If you put them on the bundler minifier, seriously, I mean, I'm not an employee at one firm. I mean, I jump clients like 2 or 3 times a year because, well, consulting, like, it's pretty much the job. And I can tell you, I still see Project in MVC2. Why? Because it works. So people are going to do a file new project. They're going to say that's a Microsoft stamped way of doing things, and we're going to have to support it for the next 10 years. And then on those clients that actually do upgrade to Node or knew about the actual Node workflow, then those projects are going to be super easy. But once you're into the bundler minifier stuff, they're going to be building onto it, and it's going to be a big pain to remove or just swap. And at that point, you're just going to be asking yourself, why swap? you're going to have to justify the budget to actually spend time swapping it out instead of just having it there and building upon something that already exists. So for me, at that point, it's just going to be not working for most clients. They're just going to be skipping it out and running the default Microsoft stamped way of doing stuff. And you can do a lot of stuff. But
This is what we need here. It's like we need to set up our own Gulp package that just says like require bundler minifier. It'll read the bundler minifier config file and just do all the right stuff.
the good part
Well,
about
that's easy. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's build it.
if I do think about a bundler minifier though, there's one thing that is kind of neat is that if I remember correctly, or if I looked correctly, I think it's the same code that was running in the bundler minifier in the system web optimization module. If I
don't think so.
Well, this is.
Is it?
What is this thing written in?
It's
all
using
C#.
nuglify as the tool that does the work.
Oh man! So they renamed it all weird. So they should have picked a new name. They're all confusing me now.
So this thing, like what it calls out to an uglify. Okay.
Yeah. And then the bundling is done just by on its own. So yeah.
So it's not even using like a standard bundler or uglifier or anything like that. It's just using some like C# compile thing. I bet it's pretty quick though. It's probably quicker than
probably.
doing stuff in Gulp.
Guaranteed. I mean,
If
guaranteed.
that's
You
all
don't have to
included, it would
run.
be faster.
You don't have to run the V8. You don't have to start a V8 VM for Chrome, which runs at the base of Node. You don't have to run Gulp, so you start right away running compile code, so you don't even have to interpret anything. You don't have to do this whole I/O things of loading all the JavaScript file related to all the plugins and everything else. So, like I said, yeah, it's faster, but we lose some flexibility. I mean, you got to pick.
So one thing that is interesting with this that they're doing is you can include your bundles, I think based on their names, inside your CSHTML files, like they have an HTML helper.
And like an HTML helper, like an at HTML dot something.
Yeah.
It's not like a tag helper.
It's at bundler dot scripts or something. It's further down, maybe, or maybe it's not in here. I forget where I saw that. Oh, it's in the wiki.
On the wiki.
Yep.
I love the wiki.
I'm always surprised in projects.
There's a link in usage.
It's on a different page.
Usage at the top. There's a link. Asp.Net helpers. Yeah, bottom.
This one. Oh,
Four
okay.
links.
Oh, okay. Read more. Time bundling.
Yeah. So I thought you were at the right place. It's just it took the long way around.
Yeah.
So
at bundler render script.
So this feels like again kind of a fallback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like what we
I think you're right. I think we should create a Gulp plugin that reads then people can still they can still do the right-clicky create bundle type things to generate that file. They can still use the render scripts piece here, but then tie into Gulp in an easy way.
I mean, why isn't this a tag helper?
I don't know.
It seems like
because this is all about reverting back, I think, to the past.
I guess. I mean, but we needed those like little like brace with a percentage sign in there. Let's pull it back.
The biggest question I got, and actually that's the one I might never have an answer for, is which user actually complained about Node and said, this is too complicated?
Well, it's probably not Samsung.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, their OS is complicated, so they can't argue on that one. So.
Well, they just bought.
was referring to that they just bought Joyent. So.
Yeah. Which I guess owns NPM, kind of.
But yeah, that's pretty much the question, and we will probably never get a feedback on this. But I mean, there was some client in the back, so I'm pretty sure it's coming from enterprise
Yeah,
customers
that's
that are
certainly my
pretty
feeling.
huge, and they just said that they probably just said that if you go that way with Node, we're just not going to be using it, or we're going to be changing platform, or I don't know what kind of string they pulled, but I'm under the impression that at that point is this either that or there's a lot of complaints, and I don't see it because
I can't see it because like the people who are going to be passionate about this are not the sort of people who are going to be following the development this closely. They're just going to like they'd be the sort of people who would just be hit by it after it came out and they upgraded.
Yep.
Okay, well that's a lot of complaining.
Yep.
hey, complaining session, we love it. Half an hour of complaining, that's not bad.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, well thanks everybody for coming out to the ASP.NET Monster Complaint Line, and we'll see everybody later. So thanks again, Maxime, for filling in for James.
If any of you guys come to Montreal, well, message me on Twitter. I'm gonna have a beer.
Excellent.
All right.
And poutine.
Oh, damn right.